Most people think a daily routine must be perfect. But that idea makes people quit, not a 5 a.m. miracle routine. A real routine for real life. Let's start.
Today, we're going to tackle a topic that sounds so simple on the surface, the daily routine.
Right. And most people can give you the basics. I get up, I eat breakfast, I go to work.
Exactly. But for those of you who are really aiming for that next level of fluency, that kind of language,
Yeah.
it just feels a bit flat. It lacks color, doesn't it?
It really does. And that's what we found when we analyzed our source materials. We looked at transcripts from advanced learners. We looked at conversations with professionals. And yeah, the fluent speakers, they don't just list what they do.
No, they weave it all together.
They weave their day together. They use specific adverbs, these really nuanced verbs, and powerful connectors to make it all flow.
And that is absolutely the mission for this deep dive. We've pulled out what we're calling the advanced toolkit from those sources routines from a really disciplined professional, a software engineer, even a student. And the goal is to help you talk about not just what you do, but how often you do it, and crucially, how one thing connects to the next.
We're going beyond just the simple present tense. This is about the vocabulary that shows commitment, strategy, and just, making your day sound coherent.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with the morning and specifically how we talk about how regular our habits are.
Sure.
We all know the core words, usually, often, sometimes, normally. But if you're really committed to a habit, you want your language to show that, right? How do we make that leap from usually to something that sounds like total certainty?
This is where we get into those really high impact adverbs. Words like invariably or religiously. The sources show people use these for habits they just don't break. If you say, I invariably get up early, you're basically saying this is non-negotiable. It doesn't change.
And I find that word religiously so interesting here because it has nothing to do with faith.
Nothing at all.
It just means every single day without changing. Like I religiously drink 2 glasses of water before my morning coffee.
Precisely. And what we noticed in the transcripts was that religiously wasn't always about loving the action. It was more about valuing the strict timing of it. It's like a linguistic commitment to your own structure.
We can also go beyond just single words and use phrases, can't we? What's the rule we need to remember for something like without fail or day in, day out?
The key thing is placement. If the phrase has 2 or more words, it usually sounds best at the very beginning or the very end of the sentence. It adds emphasis.
So instead of I always wake up at 6, you'd say?
You'd say, without fail, I wake up at 6 o'clock. Or you could say, I stick to my budget day in, day out. It just gives the sentence more weight,
That sounds so much punchier. Okay, but what about the opposite? What if something is infrequent, like, the wonderful luxury of sleeping in on a weekend?
Yeah, you don't want to just say sometimes. For variety, you can use phrases like now and again or now and then. Or if you want to be a little more formal, from time to time.
So I allow myself to sleep in until 10 o'clock from time to time on Sundays. Speaking of sleeping, the sources really hammered home this one distinction that trips up so many learners. The difference between waking up and getting up.
Oh, this is a huge one. They are not interchangeable at all.
Not at all.
Wake up is just that physiological shift from asleep to awake. Your alarm goes off, your eyes open, but get up is the physical act, getting out of the bed.
And that gap between the two, that's where the procrastination happens.
It is.
The disciplined professional we looked at, he might wake up at 6 a.m. and get up at 6:01 a.m. But the student's routine, there was like a 15, maybe 20-minute gap usually spent scrolling on their phone in bed.
And that's where you also see the difference between sleep in leak, which is deliberate, it's a choice, and oversleep, which is an accident. Your alarm didn't go off.
Right. And that disciplined routine we saw, it was all about immediate action. No snooze button. The very first thing wasn't checking the phone. It was something like drinking a glass of water or doing some gentle stretching.
Forcing that immediate jump from waking up to getting up.
Exactly. So moving on chronologically, we get to the bathroom routine. What are the key phrases here?
Well, you want polite, common phrases. In American English, it's usually use the bathroom or go to the bathroom.
And in Canada, I think you hear use the washroom a bit more often.
That's right. And then the actions are straightforward. Wash my face, brush my teeth, shave.
And then the shower. This is another one with a strict rule.
It is. The transcripts are crystal clear on this. You take a shower or you have a shower. The common mistake, do a shower or make a shower. It's an immediate red flag for non-fluency.
It's one of those fixed collocations you just have to learn. And we see a very similar problem when people talk about meals.
Absolutely. The classic learner mistake is, I do breakfast.
Right.
The distinction is simple. You make breakfast when you're preparing it. You have breakfast when you're eating it.
And there's another tiny but really crucial grammar mistake that kept popping up in student transcripts, saying I have a breakfast.
Yes. You just have breakfast. No A. The only time you'd use the article A is if an adjective comes after it. So, I have a big breakfast is correct, or I have a quick breakfast.
Otherwise, breakfast is treated like an uncountable noun in that context. Getting that right is a huge step.
It really is.
Okay, so before we leave the house, we get dressed. This source has pointed out two different phrases here.
Yeah, you have get dressed, which is putting on your clothes for the day. And then you have get changed, which is usually what you do when you get home, putting on comfortable clothes.
One of our sources called that feeling of getting changed the best feeling, a psychological signal that the workday is officially over.
It's a key transition. And when you finally leave, you don't just go to work.
No, that sounds a bit stiff. We use more colloquial phrases, right?
We do. We head off to work or head off to school. It just sounds more natural. And for any parents listening, there's the wonderful, all-encompassing phrase, sort the kids out for school.
Which covers everything. Feeding them, dressing them, brushing teeth, the whole thing.
The whole chaos in one neat phrase.
All right, so let's shift focus to flow. Just listing activities. It can sound pretty robotic. Fluency really comes from how you connect your ideas.
For sure. The basics are useful. And then after that, next, later. But for a real grammatical impact, you want to use the gerund rule.
Okay, this is a really advanced point, but it makes your speech sound so much better. Remind us of the rule.
This is a golden nugget. When a verb comes after a preposition like after or before, that verb is always in the gerund, the ing form.
So instead of after I have a shower, I get dressed.
You'd say, after having a shower, I get dressed.
Yeah.
Or before going to work, I have breakfast. It's smoother, it's more sophisticated.
It's a beautiful, efficient structure. Okay, let's jump into the workday itself. We analyzed the routine of a software engineer.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating is how the vocabulary becomes really specific to his job. He doesn't just start work. He turns on his computer, starts working, and his first move is to check his email and messages.
And then there's this specialized term, the daily stand-up. What is that?
The daily stand-up is huge in tech and many other collaborative fields now. It's a short meeting, maybe 15 minutes. Sometimes people literally stand up to keep it brief. And everyone just says what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, and if they have any problems.
So the core vocabulary is all technical. Writing code, fixing bugs.
Right, fixing errors, reviewing code from teammates. And a key thing he mentioned was a blocker.
What's a blocker?
A blocker is anything stopping you from doing your work. So at the end of your update, you might say, no blockers, which is what everyone wants to hear. It's efficient professional jargon.
It really shows how routine language adapts. Now, when it's time for lunch, it's that same verb rule again.
It is. Just like a shower, you take a lunch break. Or just take a break. We also saw people talking about eating something quick and using leftovers from the night before to save time and money.
And if we circle back to that disciplined routine, structure was everything. How did a concept like deep work show up in the language?
It's all about scheduling. The disciplined professional would block out time for deep work. That's totally focused, no distraction time for the hardest tasks. They'd work in these focused 90-minute blocks.
That's a great strategy. And at the end of the day, instead of starting something huge and new.
Exactly. The final hour is for winding down, preparing a to-do list for the next day. It stops that work stress from spilling over into your evening.
Which brings us to the evening routine. This is all about separating work life from home life. Let's start with chores.
Okay, there's a great set of phrases here that all use the verb do.
Right, so you.
You do the cooking, you do the cleaning, do the washing for clothes, And then, depending on where you are, you do the pots in the UK or do the dishes in the US.
And when you're done cooking and the kitchen is a mess, there's that great phrasal verb, clean up the kitchen, makes it all tidy again.
Then, once the work is done, that psychological shift begins. And as we said before, changing into comfortable clothes was mentioned again and again as the big signal that it's time to relax.
And what were the common relaxation activities?
They're pretty modern, playing video games, watching Netflix or nature documentaries, reading a book, chatting with friends online. But what was crucial was taking a deliberate break right after turning off the computer, creating that buffer to separate work and home life.
That buffer sounds so important. It's like the winding down period at work, but for your whole day. So finally, we get to preparing for sleep.
The final steps are pretty mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
Brush my teeth again, wash my face, set my alarm.
But the transcripts revealed something really interesting about modern sleep hygiene. It seems it's not just about the blue light from screens anymore.
No, it's more than that. The advice from the sources is clear. Stop using all electronic devices, your phone, your computer, your TV, about 90 minutes before bed. Yes, the blue light is bad for melatonin, but it's also about the mental stimulation. You can't rest if you're scrolling through emails.
Which leads to a very strong preference for reading a physical book in bed over looking at a phone. It's like the rule for deep work has an opposite for deep sleep. You need focused relaxation, not focused stimulation.
It was all said.
That was a really comprehensive deep dive. We've covered the whole spectrum, from frequency words like invariably or without fail, to the precision verbs like make versus have, or take for showers.
And those connectors, like using the gerund after having a shower.
Right.
And if you put it all together, the sources all agree on one thing. A well-described routine often reflects a well-managed life. It helps you manage time, reduce stress, and you now have the language to describe that structure with real confidence.
Okay, so a final provocative thought for you to take away. We've seen how these small, structured actions define a successful routine, whether it's that deep work block or turning off your phone before bed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to adopt just one new structured habit this week, which one would it be? And how would you use the sophisticated vocabulary we share today, like invariably or without fail, to describe your commitment to it?
Think about how you can make that commitment linguistically real.
A daily routine is not about control, it's about making life easier. You don't need to change everything today, just one small habit is enough. If this routine feels realistic for you, that's a good sign. Thank you for listening with us.